The School Innovation and Turnaround Committee meeting is called to order. May we have a roll call, please?
Dr. Bophy.
Present.
Dr. Bophy is present. Mr. Davis.
Present.
Mr. Davis is present. Ms. Edmondson. Ms. Edmondson is present. Mr. Garvey.
Mr. Garvey is present.
Mr. Garvey is present. Ms. Holloway.
Present.
Ms. Holloway is present. Dr. Jones.
Present.
Dr. Jones is present. Ms. Lewis.
Present.
Ms. Lewis is present. Ms. Orange Jones. Ms. Orange Jones is not here. Mr. Rock. Mr. Rock is present. Dr. Thomason.
Present.
Dr. Thomason is present. Ms. Voce.
Here.
Ms. Voce is present. You have a quorum.
Thank you. First item, please.
Your first item is on page 1, item 2.1, consideration of a report on types 2, 4, and 5 charter contracts and requests for amendments. The department recommendation is to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Bophy, seconded by Mrs. Holloway. Thank you. Mr. White?
Thank you, Dr. Jones. Members, just very briefly, because you hold contracts with a number of those groups that authorize, or excuse me, that operate charter schools, when there is a change to the contract, even if it's a relatively mundane change, it is necessary that that contract be amended and that you thus approve those amendments. So this is an amendment to a contract. These kinds of routine amendments will happen as needs come up. This one is driven by the location of a school. The locations of schools are in contracts, and when the locations change, therefore, that necessitates that the contract be amended. Certainly look forward to any questions and comment, but wanted just to be aware of the background. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any board members have a question or comment? Is there any objection to the motion? Motion carries. Next item.
Your next item is on page 8, item 2.2, consideration of an amendment to the 2016 request for applications timeline. Department recommendation is to approve.
So moved.
Ms. Bophy moves. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Davis seconds. Do you want to speak on that, Mr. White, as well?
No, I'm fine. Thank you, Doctor.
Okay. Do any board members have a question? Looks like there's no question on it, I guess. Are there any objections to the motion? This is going to be a quick committee meeting. I've just been properly chastised by the sub-chair. Next item, please.
Your next item is on page 12, item 3.1, consideration of the request from Type 5 charter schools to transfer to the jurisdiction of the Orleans Parish School Board at the conclusion of the 2015-2016 school year. A new executive recommendation has been distributed, and copies of the contracts are available in the deliberation room for your review. The department recommendation is to approve.
May I have a motion? Okay, Ms. Holloway makes a motion to approve. Second is Mr. Davis. Now, Mr. White.
Thank you, Dr. Jones. Members, let me just kind of give you a quick briefing on the legalities of the Recovery School District and its relationship to schools that are in Orleans Parish. There are, at present, 52 Type 5 charter schools that are under your governance. Under the law, you set the criteria historically under which those schools can return from the recovery district to the local district. And those criteria have historically involved both the charter school board of that Type 5 charter and the Orleans Parish Board working out terms, and then you approve those terms. That's happened before. This is the second year in which it was happened, and this year we bring to you 4 schools that are voluntarily saying we want to return to Orleans Parish governance and that have worked out an arrangement with the Orleans Parish School Board. You are here to consider approving that relationship, and I'm glad to see Superintendent Lewis from the Orleans Parish School Board is here. I presume that he will address the matter as well. The reason I want to give you that background is that this does not have to do with laws that were recently signed by the governor, on which Dr. Lewis also worked, that mandate a return in 2 and perhaps 3 years. In other words, this is the old model. That law shifts us into a new model. Between now and when that law happens, it may be that other schools will return voluntarily as well. So it may be that we're back here next year with another 5 or 10 or however many schools that wish to return voluntarily as well. But I want you to know that from my perspective, and I believe that of everybody involved, this is a positive thing. These are schools that have succeeded under the Recovery School District. They've met the threshold. They have worked on a relationship with a high-quality superintendent, also a local school board member as well, and a high-quality one, I'm sure. And they have come to a good agreement that I think represents the intent of what has been done in New Orleans. So I wanted to give you a little bit of background. I appreciate the opportunity, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we have a little glitch here. We're going to go ahead and finish this item here, and then I'm going to ask the board for a motion to reconsider on 2-1 and 2-2 because we had 2 cards that did not get to speak on those. And then, so let's finish this one first. We have 2 cards that wish to speak on this. Mr. Finney, I'm sorry. Yeah, yes, this is on 3.1. Mr. Dr. Henderson Lewis and Dr. James Finney. And Mr. Finney first, please. Dr. Finney first.
Hi, my name is James Finney. While I'm here, I might be able to, if it's just my 2 cards on the first 2 items.
It's just your 2. We just screwed up. I'm sorry.
I can take care of that in about 30 seconds.
We'll give you 5 minutes and you can do all of it. Does that work?
3 will probably do it.
Okay.
With respect to 3.1, I'm concerned that based on the way I've seen data for the existing Type 3B charter presented, it doesn't appear as though it's been returned to local control or is still under state control, but it's a completely independent entity that is under nobody's control. And if we're going to contemplate expanding that to several more schools, I think it's important to get an idea of whether the Orleans Parish School Board is actually in any control over the existing or any anticipated Type 3B charters. With respect to the other items, with 2.2, you were approving a revised schedule that included the first thing happening a week and a half ago, and I was just going to point that out. And with respect to 2.1, revisions of charters, I would like to suggest, because we might have discussion later today about certain individuals overwhelming this department with public record requests, that it would be less necessary for several of us to file certain public record requests if the department would take the initiative and post all charter school agreements and associated leases on their website and keep that current, so that any member of the public could always go to that website and find and download and review a copy of the charter agreement currently in operation, at least for those schools that are chartered by the state, if not for the Type 1s also. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, and I sincerely apologize for missing those first 2 cards. Did you want to respond to anything? Okay. Any board members have any question? Thank you, sir. Dr. Henderson, good morning.
Henderson Lewis, Jr., Orleans Parish School Board Superintendent. And this morning I would like to say on behalf of the Orleans Parish School Board and its members, we are very pleased to welcome back 4 schools to the OPFB family and to celebrate their progress that they've shown over the last several years before us and concern. Together with Dr. MLK Charles School, which was the first school to return last school year, these schools are helping to set the long-term foundation for our city system of school. As Type 3B charter schools under OPSB, these schools will continue to enjoy the autonomy and independence they have been afforded to under the Recovery School District. As we continue to build and work towards unification, we're very pleased that these schools will be a part of the transition as we, again, July 1 of 2018, where all schools are expected to be back under the local control of our school board. I'd like to take this opportunity. It was a lot of work that took place to get us to where we are today. So I'd like to thank not only all these parent school board members for their leadership, but also my administrative team from the portfolio office, Superintendent Dilbar and the Recovery School District, the CMO leaders, and we have representatives from New Beginnings here today, Ms. Leslie Booley. We thank her for her leadership. From Better Choice, Ms. Audrey Woods, and from KIP, New Orleans, Mr. Jonathan Birch. We really thank them for their leadership and everyone working together for these 4 schools to return back to the Orleans Parish School Board. So again, I thank you for your consideration on this morning.
Thank you, Dr. Lewis. Any comment or questions from board members? The motion is to approve. Do we have any objection? Motion carries. Next item, please.
Need to apologize, I read items out of order. We are going to go to page 9, item 2.3, consideration of the notification regarding the merger of G.W. Carver Preparatory Academy and G.W. Collegiate Academy. The department recommendation is to receive.
Do I have a
So
motion? Mr. Davis moves. Do I have a second? Ms. Holloway seconds. Is anyone speaking on this, or did we just? Okay, self-explanatory. Are there any objections to the motion? Motion carries. Next item, please.
Your next item is on page 32, item 4.1, consideration of policy revisions related to the transfer of schools from the Recovery School District to the local school board. The department recommendation is to approve, as notice of intent, revisions to Bulletin 126 Charter Schools and Bulletin 129 Recovery School District regarding RSD charter schools transferring to OPSB.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Davis and Mrs. Holloway, and someone speaking on this?
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Dobart is speaking on it.
Mr. Chair, committee members, good morning. Patrick Dobar, Superintendent of Louisiana Recovery School District. On this particular item, there are just 2 policy issues that we wanted to make sure to resolve. One is entire to the item that you just passed, where we've worked with OPSB in order to ensure that starting next year and then in future years leading up to the unification of schools, that schools that elect to go back next year, that OPSB and we will agree to just honor the remaining years on their contract if they are such. So if there's a school with 3 years left and they decide to go back, that OPSB will not extend more than that. In that way, you won't have schools going long lengths of times without renewals, processes, or hearings. And so that's what the first policy does. The second one is basically just getting in alignment with Act 91, the advisory committee, the roles of the advisory committee, and establishing an BESE policy that if at any time over the next 2 years leading up to July 2018, that if based off of those mechanisms that's listed in the bill, if there's anything that will prohibit us from meeting the July 1st, 2018 deadline, that we can push with an approval from the BESE board to July 2019. So again, those are just 2 things that we wanted to make sure that we cleaned up in policy. And then over the next several months, you'll be also getting a number of policy adjustments based off of the unification legislation. And so that's the 2 policy items that we have today, and we just have it answer any questions you may have.
Any board members with a question? Any objection to the motion? Motion carries. Next item. Oh, I'm sorry, there was a, Mr. Lewis wanted to speak on that. Dr. Henderson Lewis.
Good morning once again. Just very briefly, I just wanted to say that we are in support of those changes that Superintendent Dilbar mentioned. As he stated, we know what's going to take place on July of 2018, and so these revisions in this request is actually just putting in line with an Act 91 to move forward for 2017. So we are in support of it.
Now again, any questions, board members? Once again, no objection to the motion. Motion carries. Next item.
Your next item is on page 35, item 5.1, consideration of an update report on the Louisiana Scholarship Program. Additional backup has been distributed. The department recommendation is to receive.
So moved.
Ms. Bophy and Mr. Davis seconded. All right. All right, yes, Mr. White.
Thank you. I have a number of issues to address related to the Louisiana Scholarship Program, and so I'll walk through them briefly. First, at the last meeting, there was a report that the legislature requires of the department to submit. That report included, as you'll remember, language that at least Ms. Voce and perhaps other board members found questionable, and in that it implied a savings to the state or a savings to the taxpayer from the scholarship program. Over the course of the time since then, I've been in front of multiple legislative committees and have reflected the view that there are different ways of viewing the perception of savings or non-savings. There is, you could argue savings to the taxpayer, you could not argue savings to the taxpayer. And at the time, it was requested that we bring back to the board the language of this report that the department is required to submit to the legislature. Now, in the time since then, the April meeting was canceled, and the law requires that that report be submitted as of April 30th. Therefore, department staff included language regarding the Legislative Fiscal Office analysis that Ms. Voce had raised and submitted the report. I reviewed in the time since that discussion the video that reflected our discussion in March, and I don't think that we, in submitting the report, did everything that I had told you that I would do, which is that I would try to be in dialogue with you regarding the language of the report. That was not intentional. That was that staff read the law, they abided by the law, and we had never contemplated at the time of the March meeting that the April meeting may be canceled. In fact, at one point in the discussion, I was asked by Dr. Jones, when is the report due? And I said, off the top of my head, I don't know. Turns out it was due in April. We canceled the April meeting. We had a logistical problem. I have brought to you, therefore, a proposed draft that, upon your consideration and approval at any time, I will resubmit to the legislature that reflects academic analyses by both the Louisiana Fiscal Office and by researchers at the University of Arkansas, reflecting different perspectives, but both in much greater depth than the language that Ms. Voce had objected to at the last meeting, and I have deleted that language from this text. Upon your approval, I'm happy to resubmit the report. In doing that, therefore, the report will be amended. It will be reflective of the feedback that was given, and we will not put staff in the position of having to disobey the law because they, in fact, did submit it by April 30th. Now, as regards matters of what I think are of greater gravity, funding in our legislature for both K-12 school systems and for non-public schools is in a position of great jeopardy. And that is, I think, something that needs to be discussed in connection with any report on the Louisiana Scholarship Program. For the first time in memory, there is a cut to public schools. That cut is $44 million. Yesterday, the legislature apparently, on the House of Representatives side, shaved off $12.5 million of that, making it a $31.5 million cut. Sizable, especially in light of increasing retirement obligations, and hopefully the Senate will do even more. As it regards the Louisiana Scholarship Program, the amount has been reduced from $42 million last year to $36 million. That would not be enough to fund all of the families who have received offers and are sitting at present waiting with those offers. Those offer letters do say to them that your offer is contingent on available funding, and so all who have received offers are aware of that. We cannot determine how many offers will be available until the time at which the legislature finalizes the appropriation. Yesterday, the legislature added $3.5 million back, meaning you now have a $2.5 million cut rather than a $6 million cut. That would still leave a significant number of families without the ability to fulfill their offer. And we can only hope that, as with the public schools, the legislature fully funds all parents' choices in this program as well. So in providing an update to you, Mr. Chairman, I provide you those two briefings. Certainly happy to discuss either issue and look forward to comment.
Ms. Voce?
Okay, thank you, Superintendent, for walking us through that. I do think that the report that was required from the legislature did not go into the detail that was in this report provided to them. So this section that was questionable was not necessarily one of the items that were mandated to be reported upon. But having said that, what I'm asking you, I'm just getting this morning, this new language, and I'm looking at the report itself. Am I to assume, when I'm looking at the report, that the section of the chart is now eliminated?
Yes.
So it goes from just the verbiage that you're proposing here, which is basically the same verbiage under financial accountability, and then the added piece is under the section about this report.
Yes.
So this middle section is deleted.
Yes.
Okay. And this will be taken off of the DOE website, because when I looked yesterday, this report was still on it in
Correct.
its entirety.
As I looked back on, I mean, to be fair, what I think also happened is that the motion as written was not really reflective of the discussion that we had. And it was a confusing day. You remember this was the committee of the whole. It was a confusing discussion. But I think that it did not clearly direct staff to bring back to the board for consideration this idea. However, in discussion, when I relooked at the video, I did say, at your request, we'd bring it back to the board. So I'm doing it now. I think this reflects both your intent and meets with the parameters of the law. We can repost it. We can resubmit it to the legislature as amended.
Okay. All right. So the distribution of the report was only sent to the legislature, no place else, after this motion?
That's, as far as I know, yes, that's correct.
As far as you know?
I mean, well, it was put up on a website, so,
Right.
you have to, I don't know what that means, but.
I guess it was distributed over the internet to everyone. All right, but this middle part is removed.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you.
We have several speakers that wish to address this topic, and because we have so many, I'm going to strictly limit you to the 3 minutes, and I'll bring you down 2 at a time. Would Pamela Gauthier and Arthur Williams come to the table? And then would Pastor Tom Watson and Sandra Watson be sitting in the row behind them to be ready to come? When you speak to the mic, please introduce yourself and who you're representing. I don't believe your mic's on yet. Just a second. Okay, try again. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Pamela Gauthier, representing the Louisiana Leadership Program, and so I just want to share the goodness of how the scholarship program has benefited my son. His name is Joseph Gauthier, and when he started out, we started him out at the public school, and we thought it was great, and he went for a few years, but his grades suffered so badly. They were F's and D's, and the teacher, even though we thought that it was good for him to be there, the teacher said that they did not think that they could meet him. You know, they felt that Joseph could do more and that they did not have what it really took to offer Joseph what he needed. You understand, he had been diagnosed with Down syndrome. And so moving him to the Greater Baton Rouge Hope Academy School allotted him the ability to bring his grades up to A's and B's. And you understand that Joseph didn't even have the confidence to think that he could learn by the time that he got there. So it took him a while to even believe in himself, and now he has shown tremendous improvement in just overall well-being of life. His grades are A's and B's, like I said, and he's very proud of himself, and it has been a tremendous change in our family. So we appreciate that program for that reason. So,
Thank you for sharing. Any questions?
okay.
May I ask you, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. May I ask how old your son is?
10.
He's 10.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
How
All
y'all
right,
doing
sir.
this morning? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good morning. How y'all doing? I'm Arthur Williams. I'm a parent. I represent the Louisiana Federation for Children. I have 2 small boys. Actually, one of them went to a felon school last year, South Baton Rouge Charter Academy. It was an F. It had an F in the school. And my other son was under the scholarship program. It's Gardell Christian Academy. And I seen the difference between them each time they come home from school, as far as education and just things like my son is 5. My youngest son is 5. He knows full Spanish at the age of 5. As which is my older son was going to the charter school. He was failing basically. So the scholarship program is also good for low-income families who can't afford for their kids to get a better education, because I feel like low-income family also want their kids the better education as well. So I feel like the scholarship program is a great program for kids that needs a better education to excel their success in life. That's all I have to say about that. You know, I just hope you guys continue this program for kids, because I feel like the public school situation is ridiculous to me. I feel like it's failing. It's no teaching. They have teachers who's not even certified as teaching in the school board. They are going to school as they're teaching, so they're not really certified. As in scholarship programs, you have people who's experienced, people who's been in their careers for a while, and one-on-one with the kids. I think it's a better program for the scholarship.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Any board members have a question?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Where do you live, sir?
I live in the Burbank Garden area.
Okay, and so your kids are going to what
Gardell
school
Christian
now?
Academy, yes, ma'am.
Okay, both your children?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Are you assured, do you believe, a spot next year for your kids?
Hopefully, you know, I really hope so, because right now I'm not working. I have kidney failure. I do dialysis, so I'm a full-time patient. So it's kind of hard to have, you know, the funds, you know. So I really hope the scholarship, you know, like I say, families need this, especially the families the kids that they want to better themselves, you know, especially in those communities. They need better education.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Other questions or comments? Thank you very much. We appreciate you sharing your
No problem.
thoughts.
Thank
Would
you.
the
Have
next
a
2
good day.
people please come to the podium? And while they're coming, would Tarani Howard and Brandy Malakar, and I apologize for missing the names, if you would come down to the row behind them. Whichever one of you wants to go first, and please introduce yourself.
Good morning. My name is Sandra Watson, and I'm on here on the behalf of children as a whole, but I'm standing in as a grandparent that concerned that we do a lot. I'm gonna say I do, and I know other grandparents that really raising and helping with children, with their grandkids. And the scholarship fund is greatly needed, because I wish it was back when I was. Reading is a tug of war going through life. You know, when you can't read or you're scared to read because you don't know what's coming next, if you're going to be able to say that word. That was me. I can do better now, and I am doing better, but it's an everyday struggle. I don't want the kids to have to struggle mentally and physically, because you're not going to step ahead because you're so scared you're going to say it wrong. You're not going to let nobody just put a piece of paper in the front of you because you're going to not want to read. You're going to be that kid at the back. So the scholarship program have helped my grandson greatly, greatly, greatly. And he was one of those kids that wanted to do and can do and have the ability, but it just wasn't there. Learning those phonics just wasn't there for him. And he went to a public school. He's not at the public school now, and I'm not down in the public school because my kids went to public school, and they did it. I struggle to get them there. I'm in the library every other day with my grandchildren right now. I know the severity of reading. And I don't want to pound on reading, but that's the footstep because I know what I struggle with. And I was just in a conversation, I know it's briefly, but I just want to share this. And my daughter said, well, Mom, you down there, you down there, you down there struggling for them. And right now, I'm just getting through with chemo and all this. She said, why you don't do that? Because my scenario, if I get sick, y'all going to take me to the hospital. If my grandson can't read, ain't nobody going to pick him up by the arm to lead him in the right direction. You see what I'm saying? So I'm asking the scholarship fund to stay around to help them ones who can't help themselves to get it. And again, my grandchildren, their mama's not a really great reader. I know what she is going through as a young 32-year-old mama because I went through it. She would never tell me what she don't know. I know what she don't know because that was me at one time. So I'm asking y'all, help this scholarship fund to stay here because the severity of it is deadly. Because today is the future, but the future is right now. It's not tomorrow or a year. 3 hours from now, that's the future of these children that can't read. So I'm just asking you to let the scholarship program stay around. I know somebody got to be cut, but I pray that it's not the scholarship program. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Tom Watson. I serve as senior pastor in New Orleans, Louisiana, going on 28 years at Watson Memorial Teaching Ministries. We have 2 locations in Algiers and in the uptown area in New Orleans. I must say that I did not know her name was Watson, but we're not blood relatives.
Mighty suspicious.
But you all called us up, so thank you for setting it up that way, that I would be her. And I'm sure, though we're not maybe blood relatives, I believe we are related in this connection and in this struggle for choice. And that's why I'm here. I've been a community leader for many years in New Orleans and the region, fighting for options. And when I look at my congregation, and I not only represent my congregation, but if it was the right timing, we would probably have at least another 10 to 12 pastors here. But because of summer schedules, particularly with church conventions and the like going on around the state and region, many of them could not be here. My son is here. He's a pastor in Algiers, and both of us represent constituents who partake in this great voucher/scholarship program, this great movement. And when we counsel families and they're looking for ways out, when they're poor, when they're underprivileged, even now there are young people who are sitting at home without choices because they can't go to some paid summer camp or some even free summer camp because of family constraints and transportation and low financial circumstances. So I'm here to push hard as I can. It's not my first time in this room. It's not my first time in this area fighting and advocating for the least of our children, for the least of our families, not only in Orleans Parish, but as you know, over 7,000 young people across this state benefit from this program. I've traveled to Shreveport and other areas of this state fighting and advocating for this same issue. I pray, I hope, I fast that you would promote this program to the max. I just heard Mr. White say a few more dollars got in the coffers, but I pray that to the maximum that you all would support this scholarship program. Remember, 7,000 plus children. Now, when you do the math, if you could just multiply that by 10, because I think the average kid represents at least another 10 persons, we're talking 70,000 people who are impacted at a minimum by this great program. It's about choices. And isn't it wonderful in our state? as we progressively try to turn things around with this budget, that we can all say we join hands together in the spirit of unity on behalf of many, many families and children who can't get to Baton Rouge today to fight for and to fend for the scholarship program. So I hope and I pray that you will continue to advocate with us, hold hands with us, for the sake of not, as Ms. Watson said, not tomorrow's children, but the children that need this scholarship program right now, so that we can all have a better Louisiana and a better state overall. Thank you very much. My time is up, and I appreciate you giving me this
Do any
moment.
board members have questions or comment? Thank both of you for your passion. And grandmother, how many grandchildren do you have?
7.
Could you loan me about 3? I've only got 3.
Oh.
Thank you very much. And before the next 2 come up, I want to advise the audience and the folks here that we're not at the point where we're the ones cutting your funding for it. So we support it. I would suggest that same passion you're bringing to us, bring to your legislators, because ultimately those are the ones that make the decision of how much money they're going to put into that program.
We have been there.
All right. Well, great. Well, look, I just didn't want you mad at me at election time thinking. I'm kidding. Okay, the next 2 are come to the podium. Would Ashley Hines and Jamison Anderson come to the front row behind? All right, who's going first?
Good morning. I'm Brandy Malashar, and I'm with the Louisiana Federation for Children. And as a parent, I have 3 children that benefit from the scholarship program. And my oldest been on it since 2nd grade. I had him in public school in Jefferson Parish, wasn't doing well at all. With as far as so many children packed in the classroom, he couldn't concentrate on his tests, and he was failing. I moved him from Jefferson Parish back to Orleans Parish, and in the public school system, he still wasn't doing great at all. Coming home with bad grades, behavior problems, and everything. All red faces, the little smiley faces they put on it, wasn't doing well at all. I found out about the scholarship program and filled out the application for it, was approved, and put him in private school. And as the year progressed, I saw a tremendous amount of change in him. I mean, he's speaking out, joining different clubs, being on the B honor roll, A honor roll. And then as far as with the other 2, they also stepped up. They saw him step up, the big brother step up. So and now all 3 of my children, I can say, are on A honor roll, principal's honor roll, and have been on it, and continue to stay on it. So I'm just blessed and so grateful for this scholarship program to help my 3 children, because by me working every day, I know I couldn't afford for all 3 of them to have this benefit and be allowed in a smaller classroom where the teacher's working on them hand in hand, and they can have that extra time to be free and join these different programs instead of being home, schoolwork, and not have that freedom. So this program has really blessed me and my 3 children. They're happier. They're doing excellent in school. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, members of the board. I'm very, very honored to be here. And I'd like to say good morning to everyone in the audience as well. My name is Tyrone Howard, and I'm here representing myself, and also I've worked with BESE, Louisiana Federation for Children. I think all of those are wonderful programs. I'm here to speak on behalf of the scholarship program. I have many stories that I could share with you, but I chose one in particular. I'd like to talk to you about my son, Cody Howard. He is autistic. I started the battle for getting involved with the school choice about 4 years ago. I was one of the parents that was very involved. I spent an entire year just really advocating for a choice, because I believe that it is really a matter of life and death, to put it to be honest. It's very difficult when you watch your children and you want good things for them, but you don't have it, and then the people in your district are not listening to you and understanding your plight. I've had 2 children who were in public school who were failed miserably. They were going to an F- school, and then I had a 3rd son who was going down the same path. At that point, that's when I really got involved, and my son was awarded a scholarship, and he's doing very well. He finished middle school under the scholarship program. He's now in high school. But my son that I want to speak to you about, Cody, is autistic. Before the scholarship program, he attended the public school in my district. He was very fortunate to have very wonderful teachers. They were awesome. But with 20 children in the classroom, it was very difficult for them to give him what he needed without it becoming a disturbance to the other children. So now he's in, when he received the scholarship program, he was put into a classroom with only 8 other children. He has matured, he's developed. You can see it every year. His academic performance is improving. He's very social now, whereas before he really didn't want anyone to touch him. I don't know if you know a lot about autistic children, but they hate change. He is now is now in middle school, and he transitioned into middle school with absolutely no problems at all. I was so surprised. I was so happy because he was able to make that transition. He has the same friends that go to school with him each year. They follow together. The same group of the 8 children go to the same class every year. He has 8 classes, and he's doing well. He's at the top of his class. I'm very proud of him. And I just want to say that the scholarship program has made all the difference in the world to my family. It really has. I don't know how to convey it to you to really make you understand what a mother's heart feels when it comes to their children, when you know they're not getting what they need, and then they finally do. It's just such a blessing. And it's really given us our lives back, and it's afforded my son to be the best person that he can be. He's flourishing. He's a different person. He's doing well. He talks about getting married. He talks about, owning a Jeep. I mean, he's just really doing very well, and I'm very thankful for the program, and I hope that it will continue and that you'll continue to support it throughout the next generation, because it really does make a difference.
Thank you for your comments, ma'am. Any board members?
Yes,
Ms.
Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to know, you two ladies, where do you live? Where do you live, ma'am?
I live in the Baker School District.
Okay.
In New Orleans East.
Okay. Good. Thank you so much for sharing. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, the next, let's see, I believe that's, is that Jasmine Anderson sitting on the end? No? Okay, it's Jasmine Anderson or Ashley Hines, or are you Ashley Hines? Okay, or either one of those two here? Ah, okay, come on. And while they're coming to the podium, please, would Dr. James Finney and Mr. Kendrell Williams please come on down to the front row. Okay, actually, both of you can come onto the table, the two that I just called, because we have room for 3 at the table. 4. I've been doing this wrong all along, haven't I?
Gary, could you just ask them to state where they're from?
Yeah, and when you introduce yourself, would you go ahead and say where you're from? Save Miss Edmondson from asking, because she likes to know where you folks are from. Except for you, Dr. Finney, we know where you're from. We got you.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm Ashley. I'm from New Orleans East area.
Yeah. Okay.
Just came to here.
Pull your mic a little closer, if you would.
Came
Thank
here
you.
today to say how my daughter is flourishing, being in the scholarship program. She was attending a school in Orleans Parish, a public school where she wasn't doing so well, and being afforded the scholarship has flourished her not only academically but socially as well. And she's doing well right now. She's in 2nd grade, reading on a 4th grade level. She's been on the honor roll since transitioning from a public school to a private school, being afforded the scholarship. And I don't think she would have done so well if she would have stayed at her public school. And I'm not talking only about the academic side, but the spiritual side as well. I don't think she would have got that at being at a public school, where she's at a private school. Like, she's not afraid to pray for someone, and being at a private school that offers her a safe of security, and not only focusing her attention on education, but focusing her attention on God as well. Not afraid to pray for her teachers, not afraid to pray for her classmates. And I think that would do a lot great for other students to have that piece of going to a school where they feel safe.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Kendra Williams. My husband spoke earlier, so I'm just here to reconfirm what he was speaking on. Our oldest son, who is 7, actually was in 2 different private schools starting his education. Both schools were a failing school, and he was failing as well with the school. Luckily, the school that his brother is at did a summer camp, and he's there. The scholarship doesn't cover that, but he is there, and he is flourishing, and they are catching him up. He is now currently on a 2nd grade level, which is where he's supposed to be. But starting there 3 weeks ago, he was now on the 2nd grade level. So I'm just here to say that the program does work. The small classrooms does work. Having the teachers, actually that particular school has 2 teachers per classroom. So each student, like my son who is failing behind, they're able to work with him and catch him up and get him where he needs to be. He's happier. He's happy he's learning a 2nd language. My youngest is not as shy anymore. He used to be real shy. He was scared to talk. And now he can meet a stranger and he'll go up and start having a conversation with you. So I do think the scholarship programs offers children a lot of different options, and it offers parents options, because we want our children to be educated. We want our children to be happy. Our children ultimately will be in the public with us. So therefore, if we start them off young in the right way, in the positive way, and giving them something that they can look forward to, then I think that at the end, we all benefit. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any board members have a question? Thank both of you, and you can go ahead and return, and we'll let Dr. Finney, and while Dr. Finney's getting ready, would Christian Glover, Dr. Renell Houston, Debbie Moe, and LaToya Johnson, if y'all would come down and be ready to come to the table when he finishes. Thank you. Yes, sir, Doctor.
My name is James Finney. I live in East Baton Rouge Parish, and I'm the proud father of 3 graduates of McKinley High School, a public school which probably has a C or a D rating. It doesn't matter because it provided an excellent education for my students. In November, they will all have graduated from Louisiana Tech University, and less than a year later, one of them will have also gotten a master's degree from Louisiana Tech. That same kid who couldn't speak as a 3-year-old and was basically saved by the public education system. Let me remind the BESE members that there are 3 separate voucher programs, all of which would benefit from much greater transparency, particularly as the tuition donation rebate program explodes in cost. We must have accountability with that program. The legislature and BESE have historically shown unabashed support for the transfer of public money to private schools, particularly Catholic schools. Thus, there should be no hesitation in disclosing fully how that money is spent. Receiving the directory of approved non-public schools should not require a public record request, but it does. Receiving the exact quarterly enrollment and associated cost for each school in each voucher program should not require a public record request, potentially followed by litigation, but it does. Mr. White will say that we can't tell you whether there are 2 or 3 students attending a particular private school out of some imaginary belief that that might possibly interfere with the privacy rights of a hypothetical student. That's a straw man argument, and I'm sick of it. I'm disturbed by the fact that the department regularly shares academic data with out-of-state supporters, but won't share it with Louisiana taxpayers. The department has steadfastly refused to show data sufficient to determine whether the program's recipients are truly poor or if they're closer to the upper end of the income range. Likewise, we don't get data on which public schools the voucher students attended previously, if in fact they ever attended public school at all. Transparency is a wonderful thing. Why doesn't this department trust the taxpayers with the knowledge they can use to make useful decisions? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any board members have a question or comment? Okay, thank you. All right, who's next?
Good morning. I'm Dr. Raynell Houston. Personally, I'd like to say that for me, this is about school choice. It's about parental choice. I have an 8-year-old daughter, soon to be 9, who was born with Down syndrome. My husband and I are blessed to be able to afford to live in a zip code that provides her with an A school district and to go to an A public school. Not all families are afforded that option. And I do believe that the location of a family's residence should not determine whether they should get a quality education or not. Secondly, my husband is a former Catholic school teacher. I have seen young African American men come into St. Augustine High School as rambunctious, rowdy, defiant little boys and leave there as confident, strong, men of character, godly men, and to accomplish wonderful things, to receive scholarships and to go on to college and to do wonderful things and to come back and to contribute to our community. As a resident of the greater New Orleans area, I think it's important for the scholarship program to continue to exist and to expand, if at all possible, because of the impact that it will have and is having on our community. We are forming children in faith, we are forming children in character and giving them an academic background sufficient enough for them to be successful contributing members to our community, hoping to break cycles of violence, poverty, racism. In New Orleans, that is a huge deal, especially in our African American community. On a professional note, I represent the Archdiocese of New Orleans. I'm one of the associate superintendents in the Office of Catholic Schools. We have approximately 3,000 scholarship students that we serve in over 25 schools. And when I speak largely on behalf of my parents, my teachers, my school leaders, that this program has allowed them to impact lives, to save children's lives, children who would otherwise end up dropping out of school, who would end up in gangs, who would end up selling drugs, who might end up in jail or dead. These programs have helped them to change the trajectory of lives, and I hope that and pray that this program continues so that we can have a positive impact on those that we serve.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kristen Glover. I'm representing the BESE board. I'm in favor of the Louisiana scholarship. I've been blessed, well, my daughter has been blessed. She's been chosen since the first grade. She will have the opportunity to be accepted into the scholarship program. I made the choice because I actually applied for my son too, and he was at Glen Oaks High, where he was struggling, and he's been in public school, since his whole school year, and it's been a struggle. So I had to make the choice for my daughter for a different, experiences for her, and it's a very different. She's at St. Francis Xavier with a spiritual background. It has been very, very important in our life. She has maintained honor roll. It's just you're just praying for her to keep this scholarship going, the program going on. I have so much to say, but I have forgot. But just it's very sad that we have to take our kids out of the public schools. I wish that the public schools had the same as the private schools, but I do know the teachers at the private schools are more experienced, more experiences. More of the teachers she had, they were retired teachers, so they actually have came back to because they have the passion for teaching. And in the public school, they have a lot of teachers that don't. Actually, when my son, he was AB, but once he got to the 4th grade, he still had AB honor roll, but he couldn't get past the LEAP test. So we had to sacrifice, actually, lose something, personal items, to put him in private school for 2 years just for him to stay and graduate on time. But I'm blessed that my daughter had the opportunity, and I hope that the program stay around for years, and I pray that other people in the community can experience this opportunity.
Thank you for your comments, board members. All right, ma'am.
Good morning. My name is LaSwaya Johnson. I have now 2 kids. I used to have 3. I had a graduating senior this year. He went all the way K through 12, EBR, He will be at ULM in the fall, yay. My middle son thinks he's smarter than everybody on the planet. He is a part of the voucher program. It really wouldn't matter what school I dropped him into, he would be fine. Unfortunately for my baby boy, we had problems. In pre-K, I noticed something was wrong with him. He wasn't picking up like his brothers did. We got to kindergarten. I could still tell, I was telling the teachers at school something's wrong with him. We get to first grade. The first week of first grade, they informed me my child was not going to pass. So I panicked and we moved. I went to another school. We get to that school, he didn't pass first grade. I had an administrator look at me in the face and tell me, unfortunately, sometimes they have to fail for them to get the help. Okay, fine. So we're in first grade again. He passed because he wasn't crazy. He memorized, so that's how he passed. So he went through first grade 2 times and was unable to read. The first year that they brought the voucher program to EBR Parish, I applied and he was accepted into a private school, Hosanna Christian Academy. After 9 weeks, I'm not sure what they did, if they laid hands, if they prayed, I don't know what they did, but in 9 weeks he was able to read. He hates it when I come and tell his story because now he's going to the 6th grade. And Mom, I can read now, stop telling people. But I have to tell his story just to prove, I mean, it depends on the kid. And for this particular kid, being in the program really, really, really helped him. You know, I appreciate you all hard work to keep the vouchers going. That's pretty much my story. Thank you.
Thank you. Board members? Okay. Thank you for your sharing your stories with us. Ms. Moe?
Debbie Moe, I represent the Louisiana Association of Educators, and most of you know that I'm a public school advocate. That's not to say that I disparage the parents and the other advocates who have come to talk about how parochial schools and private schools have helped their children. I just do believe that we here in Louisiana have siloed our educational systems so that we have 3 separate systems. And it's almost a jockeying for which system is better than the other system. Actually, I don't think that there is a system that's better than the other systems. It's all in what is desired by the parents, and it's what program is best suited for a child. I know some public schools that have very good programs. My grandson, who's not quite 3, has a preliminary prognosis of autism. And he's in early steps through the state. And he will then be transferred into the program for Vermilion Parish, who will pick up him and help him through that early education and early intervention that will allow him, when he does hit school, to become a better student. I believe that there is a place for each of our systems. Parent choice, of course, is important. However, I really do hope that we can find ways to bring in to our public school systems and our other school systems those programs that are helping children. It's not a matter of which school system you put your child into. It's a matter of what programs are available for the children. The other thing that I would like to point out is the fact that this particular legislative session, as was pointed out by Dr. Jones, is going to be very difficult for funding. And every one of our educational systems, whether it be higher ed, K-12, our charter schools, our voucher schools, we're all going to experience some cuts. And as Dr. Jones said, the fight is not really here at BESE. The fight really is at the legislature. But I do believe that we have good school systems. Parents make choices. I made choices for my kids, and it was the public school system, and it served them well. My grandson, the choice for him has been the state programs and will be public school. I believe what we need to do is make sure that we are serving children and not serving systems. Thank you.
Any further board member questions or comments? Mr. Rock?
Just a comment, Dr. Jones. You know, it's interesting to hear the great stories that parents share and grandparents share about their kids. And I agree with Ms. Moe. When I was young, my parents made the choice to send us to Catholic school from elementary to high school. But when Kathy and I came along with our kids, we chose public education. And now that I'm the superintendent of the Catholic system, I'm delighted to work with the kids. And I know there's been pros and cons about the scholarship program, but I can tell you as the superintendent of schools for the Diocese of Alexandria, it's been wonderful for children in Alexandria and the surrounding area, as well as a few kids that I have in the scholarship program in Falls Parish. Very positive, very positive. It's all about choices. But it's great to hear those stories, and I like those. And even with me, someone said, well, Tommy, you and I are in Catholic education. That's true. Elementary and high school I was, but I taught in public schools for 38 years. And now I'm back in the system. But it's all about serving the children that we serve within the state of Louisiana.
All right, I believe the motion was to receive the report. Do we have any objections? Report is received, and that concludes the agenda.